Welcome to the Northern California coast. This is one of the most beautiful places that I have ever seen. It's kind of a combination of the Milford Sound in New Zealand and the Amalfi Drive in Italy. I am confident that most of you who have had physics or chemistry or biology at the university level or even at the high school level are aware that global warming, that climate change is a fact. It is a reality that has been corroborated by numerous academic studies throughout the earth. What I am not so sure of, that as many of you are aware, that we are depleting our underground aquifers faster than they can be restored. Likewise, I am not as sure that there are as many of you who understand that our rivers are running dry, like the Colorado going into the Gulf of California, or the Indus River in Pakistan. All of these phenomena, global warming, the depletion of our underground aquifers, and the fact that our rivers are running dry have one thing in common. They have one common denominator. Well, let me show you some wild and scenic country, and we'll explore some of these issues. There has been an exponential increase in the levels of carbon dioxide gas, methane, and other greenhouse gases as a direct result of burning fossil fuels, most notably coal. The amount of carbon in the atmosphere has increased exponentially to 400 parts per million over the last 80 years. Now, the key word here is exponentially, meaning that the rate of rise has been increasing, and that is unprecedented. These greenhouse gases trap the heat in the atmosphere like wrapping the earth in a blanket, consequently raising the surface temperature of the earth. This causes the massive ice sheets in the polar regions and in Greenland to melt, which will raise the sea levels. Search on Google regarding the reduction in the glaciers in Peru that furnish water to 6 million people in Lima, which is in a desert. There will be less snowpack in the mountains, leading to decreased water in rivers throughout the earth. That leads to less water for irrigation, leading to decreased crop yields for corn, wheat, and soybeans. Also, a greater number of species will become extinct, and the list goes on.
Another effect of the increased carbon dioxide levels is the increased acidification of the oceans on the planet. The increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere causes an increased absorption of the CO2 by the oceans, leading to an increase in carbonic acid, which drops the pH and acidifies the water in the ocean. This acidification kills the coral reefs and affects other marine ecosystems. All along the northwest coast now, you can't eat Dungeness crab or clams because of increase in domoic acid from increased algae. Domoic acid causes seizures in humans.
You know, an individual is inundated every day by news of mass killings by religious zealots of all different brands. Probably even more important to the long-term health of everyone is the depletion of the underground aquifers across the globe. In the past, scientists would drill down to the aquifer and measure the depth of the aquifer. Now, the mechanism by which they measure the size of the aquifer is as amazing to this retired gynecologist as is the importance to humankind to the depletion of the aquifer itself. You are well aware that the sun has gravitational attraction to the earth, and the earth has gravitational attraction to the moon. Well, so too the underground aquifers have a mass that exerts gravitational force. Now that gravitational force of the underground body of water on two different satellites can be measured to within 1/25,000th of an inch.
This depletion has been well documented by USA Today and the Desert Sun News magazines. Individual wells throughout California are drying up, and in some areas, like Los Banos, the land is sinking so much that Governor Brown has been forced to put regulations on the amount of water that can be withdrawn from the wells. Likewise, the Ogallala Aquifer under Kansas, Oklahoma, and northern Texas, and other aquifers in Australia, Pakistan, and other places are being depleted faster than they can be restored. It takes thousands of years to restore an underground aquifer. Finally, there is the reality that our rivers are drying up and running out of water. Look on Google Earth at the Colorado River after it crosses the Arizona border with Mexico and then runs into the Gulf of California. There's no water running into the Gulf. All of the water in the Colorado River has been seized, allocated, or whatever by California, Nevada, and Arizona. Likewise, the Indus River in Pakistan, the Nile in Egypt, and others are drying up as a result of decreased snowpack from climate change and from an increasing number of people drawing water from the river for irrigation. All of the above planetary phenomena, global warming, the depletion of our underground aquifers, and the decreased flow in our rivers have one thing in common, one common denominator. There are too many humans on the planet that are polluting the air with carbon dioxide and drawing water out of our aquifers. Although we have always had debates, sometimes contentious arguments, regarding immigration, whether the rich should pay more taxes, who should pay for health care, gay rights, and many other issues that may or may not be important, it is my belief, my contention, that right now humanity is at a tipping point. And if we don't do something to control the world's population, then all of these other contentious issues are going to be irrelevant. If we don't reduce the number of people on the planet, then we as a human race are going to face insurmountable and catastrophic problems. They say that 80% of the solution to a problem is just identifying the problem itself. All of the academic studies have shown that as women become more educated, they tend to have fewer children. A reasonable person might assume the most efficacious way to reduce the world's population would be to educate women throughout the globe. However, if women are oppressed or subjugated by a religion with a patriarchal hierarchy, then educating women might be a problem. Providing women with affordable, long-acting, reversible contraceptives would be a giant leap forward in reducing the population. You would hope that even the most right-wing zealots in this country would not be against educating women or providing contraception. Never mind that if all women had access to safe and legal abortions, we would not only reduce the tragic consequences of unwanted pregnancies, but also reduce the problems of overpopulation. Just educating women and providing contraception throughout the world would easily reduce the number of people we need to feed. Even the Pope has recognized the problem and stated that we need to stop breeding like rabbits. It's ironic that the very policies of the Catholic Church have contributed greatly to the problem.
Well, what I'm asking you to understand is not really rocket science. You too can become a scientist. Several really bright people have articulated this problem very well. The Reverend Thomas Malthus recognized in the 1800s that overpopulation would be controlled by war, by famine, and by pestilence or disease. Paul Ehrlich from Stanford University, where I was trained in obstetrics and gynecology, articulated the idea in the 1980s. Even Norman Borlaug, the father of the Green Revolution, understood the need for population control to maintain the balance between the exponential growth of humans and the linear growth of foods. There were several books like The End of Plenty by Joel Bourne and When the Rivers Run Dry by Fred Pierce, and many others that define the problem very well. You know, you too can become an investigative scientist. Remember that a scientist changes his or her conclusions to conform to the facts, whereas less educated people change the facts to conform to their conclusions. There will be two powerful forces to contend with in your scientific investigation into this colossal problem that threatens humankind. First, there are the religions of the world that for numerous reasons want humans to procreate. Most notably, they want to have more people to contribute to their coffers by tithing each week. Secondly is the problem of unfettered capitalism, whereby a rising tide lifts all boats. Even if you make a defective widget, more people to buy widgets will probably improve your bottom line. We can still believe in God, and we can still believe in capitalism. However, we must control the number of humans that inhabit the planet if we want to survive. For those climate change skeptics who say that there has always been cyclic variations in the carbon dioxide level and the temperature of the Earth, they are correct. Earth doesn't rotate perfectly like a wheel about an axis. It spins like a wobbling top. Every 22,000 years, Milankovitch, a Serbian, calculated there is a slight change in its wobble. Every 100,000 years, there is a change in Earth's orbit about the Sun. Its almost circular orbit becomes more elliptical, taking Earth farther from the Sun. And finally, Milankovitch discovered every 41,000 years, there is a change in the tilt of the planet's axis, moving either the northern or southern hemisphere farther from the Sun. But nothing in the geologic past reflects the current dramatic rise in the carbon dioxide level and or the temperature of the Earth. Thank you, a martini. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed your wild and scenic tour of the Northern California coast, and maybe some of you have gained some new intuition into some of these ideas. Do you know that even if we were able to reduce the levels of carbon dioxide emission to zero, it would take between 50 and 100 years to attain the pre-industrial revolution levels of 270, 280 parts per million. Now, some of you may say, well, we can't do that, so let's just forget it. And you know, you may be right about that. But if we don't at least attempt to correct the problem, then our F2 and our F3 progeny are going to disinherit us. Now you might have to think about that one for a moment. Well, just remember, in the coming elections and in the future, that the elephant in the room is overpopulation.